When Donald Trump was elected most recently, that election night, I was laying in bed and my girlfriend was upset. She was kind of in her feels about it. I was just laying there in silence, and all of a sudden I just started cracking up. She was like, "What could possibly be so funny right now?" And I was like, "Trump's going to have to be the president that tells us that aliens are real." And we both kind of lost it laughing, and I was like, "I'm serious." It's going to be probably the craziest, most disorganized, most hilarious announcement of earth-shattering information ever. We should be at limitless free energy at this point. And why aren't we there yet? Because certain technologies have probably been suppressed. And we're moving into an age where time's a ticking. We got some problems on this planet. He said, release the UFO files. Where are they at? When are they coming? What's going to be in them? Here's all you need to know. So, unless you've been living under a rock recently, in addition to all the Epstein file stuff, Donald Trump is now saying he wants to release the UFO files. Big surprise there, and maybe a big distraction from somebody's appearances in the Epstein files. But the UFO community, we will take what we can get. Now, that being said, I have some concerns. I have some cautionary statements. Let's just say if the Epstein files are any indication of how things are going to go as far as redactions and refusals to release certain things, we might be in a bit of trouble when it comes to the UFO files as well. Part of the problem is that, we've talked about this in this channel before, a lot of people who should be in the know about this aren't in the know. I fear that those people could possibly be easily manipulated, meaning, someone higher up in the Pentagon says, oh, well, that doesn't exist. And they're going to be like, well, okay, they say it doesn't exist. It's because that person is not allowed to know because of the current secrecy structure that we've talked about before in this channel. That's one problem. The other is national security, right? Whenever people submit FOIA requests, which is Freedom of Information Act requests, you're requesting certain documents from the government based on certain key terms or, whatever parameters you've set up in your FOIA request for them to release things that have to do with a given topic. A lot of times, things like that are refused based on national security privileges. A lot of the, let's say, more modern footage, imagery of UFOs, UAPs, they're very likely taken with technology or sensors, not just like front-facing infrared cameras or something kind of basic that like everybody knows that we have. Some of them may be tracked or monitored or captured like via some kind of imaging from a device that may actually be secret. So we do have that problem. And then we just have the age-old problem of people in power not wanting to give up anything that doesn't serve them. I believe, based on a lot of research, that these programs do exist, and I do believe that these military and government witnesses who have worked for the government for decades, and they have worked their ever-loving asses off to get to a very high position in government and military and intelligence, and some of these people are leaving their post because they feel like this information needs to come out, and they don't want to be part of a program anymore where they feel like they can't make a difference, and information is kept from the American people and just humanity in general that they feel like should, most of it at least, be public. But all that being said, this is still really an important moment. It's the beginning of an important moment. And I'm laughing because when Donald Trump was elected most recently in 2024, that election night, I was laying in bed and my girlfriend was, upset. She was kind of in her feels about it. And I was just laying there in silence. And all of a sudden I just started cracking up, and she was like, what could possibly be so funny right now? And I was like, Trump's going to have to be the president that tells us that aliens are real. And we both kind of lost it laughing. And I was like, I'm serious. It's going to be probably the craziest, most disorganized, most hilarious announcement of earth-shattering information ever. If he's going to be the one that kind of sits us all down to have a little chat about it. I find it interesting. He personally, every time he's asked about it, he kind of says like he's not really into it. He doesn't really get it, but he believes the people. He's had several meetings with military people, and it is widely rumored that he has been like pretty fully briefed on what we know about life elsewhere and all that. He seemed like he's a little hesitant to approach the topic, and I personally feel like it maybe makes him a little uncomfortable because it challenges a lot of people's views, and he doesn't really, I think, have a strong belief. He just believes what he's been told, I guess you could say. I find his motivation now to do it very interesting. I don't know if that is kind of a please look at anything but the Epstein files kind of move, which I wouldn't be surprised. But this is kind of a long time coming. And despite the nonplussed kind of attitude that a lot of myself and a lot of UFO enthusiasts, if you will, kind of have towards this, because it is a big moment in the sense that we're having public conversations about this, and the president of the United States is actually taking this seriously. And unfortunately, because he's Trump, I feel like a lot of people who don't like Trump are not going to take this issue seriously, which is probably my biggest concern. And that's probably the point that I really want to get across in this video, is that you don't have to like Trump. This has literally nothing to do with Trump. There have been people who have, again, literally given up their jobs and potentially like their whole entire careers to try to bring this information to the American people. They've been really stonewalled. That being said, they are gaining momentum. I did a video not that long ago on the age of disclosure. It featured Marco Rubio, Kristen Gillibrand, several physicists who have worked for our government, and other players who have been part of the UAP task force and things like that. So there are people very, very high up in government who are aware of this and are deeply concerned about it. So I do think that momentum is building. Now, again, there's no timeline yet. I don't know if we know what the criteria is going to be, other than, anything that doesn't compromise national security, which, if you know anything about our government, they like to use that very liberally and paint with a broad brush when it comes to national security and redacting documents or withholding them, refusing to release them. So we have that. But that being said, no matter what the government tries to do at this point, the pushback coming from within these programs and from the people who have already left these programs to become whistleblowers, that pushback is going to be great. And I do feel like if the government kind of plays around with this and doesn't really put their best foot forward in trying to release this information honestly and as fully as national security will truly allow, not just using it as a pretext to redact documents or refuse to release them, I think we're going to see a lot of pushback from whistleblowers. We're going to get new whistleblowers, perhaps people even deeper into these programs now that it's being spoken about so freely. I think some of them are going to become emboldened to come forward and share even more. As a side note, I have to 100% look into this. It seems as though Eric Burleson, a member of Congress in the House, apparently was cleared to go visit one of the sites where some of these craft are allegedly kept. And he may have, in fact, visited one of those sites at this point. So I eagerly await to hear an update on that, if he's going to be allowed to share anything about that experience. Cool. I would love to see it. More of that, please. So we're going to get more of these people coming forward, I think. And it's really going to push the conversation forward, regardless of how much the government tries to stonewall this time. I feel like the cat is too far out of the bag. Like, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't really just shove it back in at this point. We can't go back to... it was a natural gas or a weather balloon or some, age-old bullshit like that. So it's a sign of a step forward. I don't know what that step is. This topic keeps gaining momentum, and you hear more and more about it. And I've been saying this for a while. The trickle of information that's coming out is going to become a faster drip The faucet is going to start dripping more. And eventually, one day you're going to wake up and the valve is going to be wide open and the information is going to be pouring out. Not just from one source, from different areas, like, from the government, yes, from whistleblowers, yes, from individuals, civilians, yes, and archaeological digs, stuff like that, like stuff that goes back in time and looks at our history and how these craft, these beings, whatever, you want to name, you want to put on it, what our history with them may be. We're probably going to find out some things in the next 5 or so years that are really going to make us take a step back and like question the history of humanity and our potential previous interactions with other beings or downed craft that have been buried in an archaeological dig for a really long time. I think information like that is going to start to come out. That trickle of information coming out it's going to increase, and it's meant to prepare you for a life where this stuff is more out in the open. There's going to come a day where nobody's going to be able to question whether these craft exist or whatever. They're just going to be out there and out and about, and you're just going to see them a lot more. People's phone cameras are getting better. People can take pictures and videos of the moon now, like by filming through a telescope that is like so crisp and so high definition that eventually you're going to see stuff out there that isn't space junk, isn't a satellite, isn't the space station. You're just going to see more stuff like this. So keep an eye out, look around, stay up to date with what's happening with members of Congress and this topic. There has been work done in Congress that hasn't been quite as public, but, has been filmed. It's just not like a public C-SPAN hearing. Physicists who have worked on some interesting propulsion programs have briefed Congress members about even down to the types of beings that they're aware of, that our military is aware of, and that they've been briefed on. And I know that sounds maybe way too crazy for you to wrap your head around, but these are the conversations that these people are having. Information is out there. It just hasn't been officially stamped yet. Going back to our secrecy problem, this stuff has been so compartmentalized that even the people that are supposed to know about it often don't. And when they do find out about it, they're often continually shut out of these programs. Or one thing that the government likes to do that they don't really tell people is they like to offer for you to be read into a program. Danny Sheehan, he's actually worked with Congress to help write the UAP Disclosure Act. He's a constitutional lawyer. He was one of the attorneys brought on to help with the Iran-Contra scandal, like all this stuff. Like he's really been like at the forefront of a lot of major projects over the years, but this is kind of his baby. He actually has refused. He claims that he has refused to be read into programs through the military several times because if they offer to give you the information, what usually comes with that offer is a big fat NDA. You can't ever talk about it again, or you're limited to like just surface level. Like there's so many things you can't say about it. He has refused being read into some programs because he was allowed to review some documents and some items in a room alone. He was not allowed to have like a pen or anything like that. Like he couldn't write everything down. He couldn't take pictures. He couldn't copy it, pretend it's like a skiff, like no cell phone, no recording device, no whatever. And he was able to like memorize some things that he was allowed to read at one point, but that was not under a non-disclosure agreement. So he would not be prevented from disclosing some of those things. Now, if he had agreed and said, "Oh my God, yes, I want the information. I want the information that you have that I've been desperately searching for all these years." If he's given that information, first of all, they might read him in and give him a bullshit version of it, just because the government likes to do that shit sometimes. And they also give you a big fat NDA, no talking about it ever again. So he has voluntarily refused to get that information a few times for this very reason. So despite the fact that there might be games being played, either by the DoD or the Pentagon as a whole, or some 3-letter agencies, Air Force. If those things are all happening, it really doesn't matter. It goes back to The people who know about this, they're waiting. They're waiting for the opportunity to share more, and some people have been bold enough to share what they know. Some people have been bold enough to share what they know, but I'm pretty sure they're only allowed to share about this much of what they know because, again, going back to the NDA issue, you don't want to get shot or put on trial for treason or something crazy like that. So there's high risk for a lot of these people, but these people actually genuinely care about the lack of transparency, and they want to change that. They want our whole approach to this issue to change for the future, because the future is changing and we have to change with it. And we are woefully behind in our technology. We should be at limitless free energy at this point, given what we already know how to do. And why aren't we there yet? Because certain technologies have probably been suppressed. And we're moving into an age where time's a ticking. We got some problems on this planet that we really need to solve. We have some problems with each other. We're at war today. Oh, yeah, that's another problem. We're at war now. So I don't really have super high hopes that the UFO fires are going to be top priority anytime soon. But that being said, they're not a priority because A, it is related, B, it is vital, C, it is for the future and for humanity. And we definitely need more of that given the current landscape. So I wanted to come on here, mention it, and give you guys a little update, but keep your eyes open. Watch for the change in tone with the types of information that come out about this, about maybe even archaeological digs and new whistleblowers. It's going to come from different angles, and there's just going to be more information that comes out, but it's just going to be maybe not so centralized and clean and neat as we would hope. If only it were that simple. But it's just not. So until next time, peace out, Earthlings.